right, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming out this afternoon for the weekly Trader Vision 2020 user workshop here for September 12th for the recording. Let me ask this. Is there anybody here who does not know what Trader Vision is or has not used Trader Vision before? I guess I will take that silence as a no. That's fine then. I won't need to cover too much about what it is. Here's my agenda for today. It's going to be pretty loose. If you have questions, just sing out and I will do my best to answer them whenever and however I can. Basically, I'm going to show you the scanning widget. We'll run some scans, see if we can't pick out a few tickers, and then we'll plan some trades. Hopefully we can get out of here in 45 minutes. So, with that said, let's go ahead and get started here. As you all know, I guess, this is the Trader Vision scanner. And let's go ahead and just pick out a trend and see if we can't find something we like. Let's 400,000 shares a day, at least $4 a share. Run the scan. Amba, this is a stock I like a lot. And so this is definitely one that we will plan out. Let me get rid of some of these moving averages just to make the chart a little cleaner. Okay. So AMBA, very nice one. You should definitely add that to your list if it's not already on there. I would say that we're looking at probably an entry right about here. Let's call that 40.58. With a stop. Let's add V-stop to the chart. So we can see that we've got V-stop right here, 39.98 or 37.98 is what it's saying. And then we're going to have our first target up here, right in this area. Let's call it 44.50. And that second target is probably going to be right along in there. Yeah, that works out right. Right along in there, about 46.25. Let's see if we can't plan that out, and then we'll come back and look at some more charts. Just so happens the first one we came across I liked. Earnings are out of the way, so we've got 2.5 months until the next earnings cycle. What happened there? What the heck? Okay. We've got the short-term bias of the market is still down. Long-term is up. The long-term bias of the ticker, because it's around a bottom breakout, is not bullish yet, but the short-term is. We've got everything else going in our favor. No particular signal today. It was a doji, but we did have a morning star yesterday, which is one thing that I saw. Let's go ahead and put the prices in that I said. I think I said a 40.58 entry and 37. I think V-stop was 98, so let's make it 95. And you can adjust that as you see fit. But those were the prices that we were looking at. In this particular account, it says 57 shares, but I'm going to go ahead and claim that as 100. It's still a 3% trade, but it does have a pretty big stop loss because of the size of that stop is 6.5%. But if you can stomach that at that first target, you'd be getting 1.5 to 1. So let's go back to that chart and see if that makes sense. Whoops, wrong chart. Scan it. Maybe that was a 38 entry I was talking about. About 50. $58 and $61, so let's make that 58. So let's make this 40. Entry 44.40 and make this 55. Does that help at all? That gets us a touch closer, 1.69 to 1. So basically it's going to come down to whether or not we believe we can get to that second target. So the first target is in here, across those three and this high, as well as those lows. And then the second target is only up here, a little ways higher. Normally, I might look for a third target up here, but I don't want to go above the 200. So I would probably just look at that second target. But that's one of the charts that I would take a good look at tonight. Let's see what else we've got in this scan. BECN, again. Pretty nice little chart there, holding up quite well after that big breakout day. Probably has a little overhead not far above. See what else we can find. I don't like that. FPI might be one to look at here. Yeah. What was today? It was about we'll look at it on a breakout. So looking at about a 7.9 or 7.8 entry with a first target up here about 740. That's not going to work. And a second target on up here about the 200. $7.97. That's not going to work. Let's just keep looking. This is another one that's been on my list for a while. On a breakout here, let's call that 570, maybe 575, with a stop down here about 5.25, and a first target up here about 7.25. Let's look at that plan. Oh, let's just be a little bit conservative. Let's make this 300 shares. Tiny position. And if we sold it all at that first target, we'd be getting almost 3 to 1. And with that tiny position, I might consider upping that to a $500 or 500 share position. That's still only going to be 2% of the account. Does the 3 reds in the market condition mean caution? It should. If you only know what they are. So for example, let's go back and look at that chart. We're looking at the long-term bias of the symbol. It's a rounded bottom breakout, so that's to be expected. The long-term bias is it's been going down. The short-term market bias is down because the market, well, let's just look at the SPY, for example. The SPY in the long term is very bullish, but in the short term, it's been in a pullback. But to me, that looks like it's found some support in there, and I'm more bullish than I have been for a few days. So I'm less concerned about what this says about the market bias. And then the last thing is the 8 EMA, or the T line, has not crossed above the 34 EMA yet. And let's go back to the chart. Whoops, I'm sorry, to the scanning. And just for argument's sake, let's put those back on. So exponential moving average 8. I'll make that black. And let's put the 34 on there as well. And we'll make that orange, if I can find orange. It's about orange. Okay, so you can see how close these are. In fact, let's zoom in. See how close they are to crossing? So the 8 is definitely headed towards crossing 34. And in fact, if I go back to that entry price that I'm looking for here, about 575, at that point, so we're higher than today's high, we're going to pull that 8 EMA crossing back up through. So you're correct to be looking at these things, but this one goes away if we get that entry price, and the long-term bias is to be expected in a rounded bottom breakout, as well as the short-term bias, which I think is my opinion, is turning. Now that's my view of the market. You may have a different view. It's not clearly bullish, but it looks to me like the pullback is trying to bottom out here for the overall market. So if I went up to 500 shares on this thing, again, it's a 2% position for this account, but it is $265 worth of risk. You have to consider that, but it's a chance to pick up 7.25 in terms of profit. So this is a position I think is well worth checking out there. And again, we've got a couple months until earnings. So again, this is all going to come back to your view of the overall market and the position in general. Let's skip down through a few more of these. We've had a few or enough. Ooh, that one's pretty nice. So we've got a low and a high and a higher low within this nice long-term base. Had a big breakout day to day following a doji. I would probably want it to move pretty good. So it's at 488. If we got up over 530, which is a pretty big move, that's the breakout I would be looking for. So this is probably more of a watch list one. But on a 530 type of price, how about 510? Then you're looking at a first target up around 610 and a second target on up here. So add GoGo to your list of things to keep an eye on. Ingredion, that's kind of a morning star, not exactly because of that the wicks on that first day, but on a breakout here that could be nice. So 103, you'd be looking at a little move there. If it's got enough volume for options, that would work. Well, all I know about GoGo is that today's volume was 2.6 million, but the 50-day average volume has been over 400,000 shares. So that's as much as this tells me at this point. I could run my own scan to make it meet a certain rule, but I don't have the printout of what that average volume is at this point in time. Let's try a different scan and just see what else we can find. How about looking for trending stocks here? Apple had their product announcements today. I don't think it's time to get into that yet. Doesn't throw me. AXCM might be worth a look. You got support right in here across this high and across these lows, and it's kind of defined by those volatility stops. Let's go back and look at some history. Got this nice long-term uptrend going back to March. think that might be worth a look. So let's say an entry of what was the high? 46.39. Okay, so let's say 46.42. Just pick a number. V-stop says we can be about 44.85. And I'm probably looking at a first target. Well, let's just put the fibs on it. So I'm probably looking here at about 50.25 as a first target. And about 53.60 as a second. So let's see what ACXM would do for us. Again, we've got a couple months on earnings. Very nice situation here. We've got 5 bullish conditions. Only the market bias in the short term is against us, and again, I think that's bottoming out. Let's do it as 1 entry and 2 exits. So I said 46. Let's just call it 45. And 44.85 as a stop with 50.25 was a conservative first target and 53.60 was a second target. Let's do 100 shares. Position size is fine. I'm okay with $160 of risk. Let's sell half of them at that first target. And I do get over 2 to 1. And if we can ride, well, we'd be moving our stop up, but we've only got to reach essentially not even that first target to sell our entire position and make our trade goal. If we sold the entire position at that first target, we'd make 380. But if we could ride part of it on up, it's kind of all gravy. But that second target, which is a fib target, would take us up around 15+%. Overall, about a 12% trade. So that's one worth looking at for me. And in terms of average liquidity, this tells you that according to my measures, it's selling, or it's trading about $40 million worth of stock per day, which was plenty for a position size that's less than $5,000. Okay, I'll just pop one down through here. If you see something you'd like to if you see something you would like to have me plan out, let me know. That's a nice trender, but it's not ready to buy. AMD's been a beauty, but I don't think I would chase it here. and our Angie's been in a nice run up and a pullback. Not thrilled about that company, but in terms of a trade, it's a great trend and certainly one worth looking at. Now that may be a hangman at these highs, so I would definitely want to see a breakout, but you might add that to your list. The RNC, once that consolidates here above the 200, that might be worth a look. AYX. Aspen Technologies, it's a good software company. I've worked with them before. Nice little bullish engulf of a doji to break out of a little consolidation pullback here. Not really a J hook, but close enough for government work. Booz Allen. And let's look at a pullback after a run. See what that scan gives us. Got 27 of them here. Alarm is a nice little pullback after that beautiful run up. Still red, but on a breakout maybe. CDNA trying to hammer up on this little pullback here. I'm not a huge hammer buyer, but some people are. Mercury is something to keep your eyes on. It looks like we've got some support down in here. It's been a very strong run. I would think about putting that on my list. Possible we've got a little support across here about 53.75-ish. Or on down here. So that one's one to keep an eye on. This is one I've been keeping an eye on. Looks to me like we found support here. I'm looking for any buying signal. If I got a buying signal, that looks to me like I've got about with a $14 buy and a $14.84. It's not a huge, it's more than 5%, but it's not a huge move there. Let's draw in some fibs and see if I can't. Okay. So we've done a 23.6 pullback on this. I'm going to say a $14 buy with a stop is going to be right around it here, about 13.60, let's call it. Might be a little above that, but so we're looking at a $14 buy up in here. Well, actually, did I do that wrong? Yeah, I guess it's about a $14.80 something buy. Let's call it 85. With a stop about 1365. And that first target is going to be up in here, which is 18, it's called 1845. So if we get a buying signal, that's, and you know, let's call it a bullish engulfing or whatever, we could do that. You know, if we got that bullish engulfing signal tomorrow and we broke this level, that's where I would be looking to buy. And what's playing out as a trade? NVTA, yeah. So with a 1485 buy and a 1365 stop, with that, just do one target for argument's sake, 1845. Let's call it 150 shares. $180 of risk, but that's less than 2% of the account. And if we sell those 150 shares at that first target, we're picking up 3 to 1. So that one's worth a look as well. Again, NVTA, again, put it on your list. You're waiting for it to come to you. Make sure it gives you that signal. Okay, so we've planned a number of trades here. I don't want to go through every scan, and this is not really a scanning class. So, are there any questions or any particular tickers you'd like me to take a look at? Well, this is going to be quick. There's no answers. Okay. Okay, guys. Well, if there are no questions, I see some typing, so I'll hang on for a moment. I mentioned in the room today there's a lot of gold names. Here's Nugget, which is the miners, and Argold. A lot of morning stars in the golds for some reason. SECO's copper out of Peru. On NVTA, let's see. I use 1365 as a stop and 1485 as an entry. Let's just go here. NVTA. So I was looking at a stop down in this area with an entry up here, breaking above these, the tops of these bodies, the top of this wick. So I've got to have that buy signal. It looks to me like we found support here, but I've got to have that buy signal to show me. $14.85 was the entry, $13.65 was the stop, and $18.45 was the Fibonacci target. Okay, I see some more typing, so I'll hold on for a minute. You're welcome. Well, Doug, I can tell you about it later, but basically we have a built-in scanner now that comes with Trader Vision, and it comes with 35 trades or 35 pre-programmed scans. We have not launched the ability to save your own, but I've demonstrated it in the past, where you can write your own code. It's very, very similar to the PCF language. It's very simplistic. You know, O means open, H means high, L means low, C means closed, that sort of thing. Average means simple average, AVG. So those sort of things. But I've pre-programmed 35 scans, which include bullish and bearish. And you can look for signals, you can look for patterns, and you can define you pick your scan, you pick what universe you want to scan against. Everything from Canadian stocks to the Russell US ETFs or the Russells or whatever you want. I just use the US market, which is US stocks and ETFs. You can also run it against the CBOE's list of high volume options stocks. So you just pick your universe, then you pick a 50-day moving average of volume that you want as a minimum. This is in millions of shares, so 0.4 means 400,000 shares per day. A price that you want to have, any limitations you want to make. So at this point, if I put a minimum price of $4 and I know it's trading 400,000 shares a day, that tells me that it's trading about 1.6 million is the very least. Anything that comes up as a result could be traded. And you just click run the scan and it gives you the results. In this case, there are 8 tickers in this universe with these filters that meet my Morningstar scan. SCI might be one to keep an eye on. Nice Morningstar here. It's not ready yet, but not too much higher. It's at $42 now, $41.99. Up here about $42.80. I would strongly take a look at it. But basically, that's the built-in scanner. And Trader Vision. If I asked earlier if anybody was new, but basically, it's all about trade planning. It's work the process. I'm very process oriented, and that's the whole basis behind Trader Vision. Define your rules and make sure that the trade meets those rules. Lay out your plan ahead of time so that you know what's going to happen. You know exactly what percentage and dollars are at risk, what percent of your account's at risk, exactly what you can get at each of your targets. And with all that information ahead of time, you're not so surprised, and your emotions are not going to be jerking you around nearly as much during a trade. I'd be happy to hang around and talk to you about this afterwards if you'd like. I can give you a link to a whole lot of videos where I walk through the product and show you how to use it. And of course, I will give you the link to my YouTube channel afterward as well. Oh, okay. Yeah, so I'll hang around, and I'll be happy to give you that link. You can spend all your time looking at it, and my email is always there. If you're in the room, feel free to PM me or ask me a question. I'll always be happy to help you with it. Okay, well, it's about 4:55. If there are any specific tickers that you want me to look at, this scanning feature is relatively new. It's a month-ish old, maybe 6 weeks. I can't remember. But the new thing that Rick mentioned in the room today is it is scanning. I'm going to call it real-time scanning, just to keep it separate from this. Is pattern and signal scanning at a a daily level, while the new feature will be very much alerts. So looking for new highs, new lows, abnormally large volume, as an example, for particular sets of tickers that they could have met some scans. So they might have been a morning star, today. You could take all of these morning star results and plug them into a list and say, I want you to monitor those tickers and tell me if any of them gets a new day high, or 2 times normal volume, that sort of thing. So that's coming, but that's still a month or two away. We've really just started development and into it fairly heavy this last week. And that will be that's a separate thing. It's not going to be built in as part of Trader Vision, at least initially. Okay, let's look at did I do a plan on this earlier? I can't remember, but I like it. It's one that I've been watching for a while, and let me just see. If I didn't, I'll do one. Oh, I guess I did. So, I was looking at a 575 entry and a 522 stop. So let's go back and look at that chart. So I'm looking at an entry right about here, so above these highs. Let's make this a little bigger so you can see. So up above these highs is where I'm looking for an entry. So 8 or 10 cents above where we're at, with a stop down in here, just below where the V-stop is, just below the 50-day moving average. And then looking at 720 as a target. So that's up in this area, which is about the 200, and about these lows in here. So right around in this area, which should be about where the 200 is by the time we reach it. Yeah, this particular scanning feature, so pattern and signal scanning, is already built into Trader Vision. It's part of the package. This new project or new program we're talking about will be a separate tool that will make it so that eventually it can bolt on to Trader Vision, but it doesn't matter how you come up with those lists. So you could tell it you want to look at for new 2-day highs or something of that nature, and you could say, I want you to do that against the entire S&P 500, or I want you to do it against these particular tickers that I got out of a scan from Trader Vision, or out of a scan from Thinkorswim, or somebody just gave me a ticker name and I want to add that to one of my lists. And you can run as many of those alert windows or scanning windows as you want, but that's it's separate. I don't want to confuse the things, so I really think of this as scanning, and that as more of real-time scanning or real-time alerting of particular conditions. Okay, guys, so it's been exactly 45 minutes. Let's call this an evening. Doug, I will be happy to hang around if you would like. And let me give you some links. Let's minimize this. First of all, there's my contact information. You can always reach me at ed@tradervision2020.com. I do a daily blog where I show the use of it for trade planning every morning. That's available on the website under, let me pull it over here. From the website menu under Trade Ideas, TV 2020 Trade Plans. You can always get to it there. Also, that web address that I was going to give you with all the videos under Products, Trader Vision 2020 Subscription, TV 2020 Tutorials. If you go to that web page, there are a whole list of videos. There's a manual, but I will tell you that manual is out of date because I just haven't had time to keep up with it. But we've got all sorts of videos here, and all of these workshops are recorded. And in fact, tonight's this afternoon's workshop will be added a link to the video here by the end of the evening. I'll post that link directly in the chat as well. So there you go, guys. Let me go back to this. The YouTube channel is well, copy link. There's the YouTube channel. If you want to follow that, please do subscribe, and every morning you'll get the video as well as the videos for these workshops. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate your time this afternoon, and I'll see you again real soon.